everyone. Welcome to the Talkin Kop. My name's Ashley. I'm here with Chris and our resident Canadian, Matt, who is back for another post-match show. We're here to talk about an actual win, guys. Look, we had an actual comfortable victory with actual goals and no brain farts. And just so many good things to talk about. Final score was 4-1 in Liverpool's favor at Anfield against Newcastle. Matt, I'm going to come to you first. Reactions immediately after that game.
It feels good to have a comfortable win. I believe that's our first win in the calendar year. So,
Yep.
the last day of January and we get that monkey off of our back finally. That's quite nice. But there's definite signs of improvement from just that game to what we've been seeing for the last couple of months. There's still a few things that need to get worked out, but we've got a couple of players on our hands in Hugo Ekitike and Florian Wirtz. If you're not watching this Liverpool team right now as a Liverpool fan, getting excited about having these two guys in our team going forward, and maybe try lawn bowling.
Oh, well, our resident Newcastle fan, Davey here, says, "Congrats, Kopites. Thanks for the memories, Eddie, but close the fucking door after you, gutless." Chris, we said going into this game that Slot and Eddie Howe were both going into the game with a lot to prove and potentially a lot in the line. You heard from our Newcastle fan there. Do you feel like that was a gutless performance from Newcastle?
I just thought Newcastle were the better side, probably for the first half hour, 35 minutes. They went very man for man. I thought we struggled with their high press, and we were saying like 15, 20 minutes in and going like, I don't think we strung three passes together yet. It was bombardment of set pieces, and look, they were going out quite lightly. The ref was falling for it. You take them when you can. I mean, I saw a stat tweeted earlier that in the first 12 minutes of the game, the ball was in play for 3 minutes. Newcastle's game plan was to kill it as a game, make it disruptive, and play for set pieces. I'll be honest, for the first half hour, I thought Liverpool struggled with it. So I wasn't massively surprised when they went ahead. Listen, we'll talk about the goals later. It's good finish. The best thing that happened to Liverpool was they got an early equaliser, and then I think Liverpool then grew in confidence. I think from 1-1 onwards, Liverpool were fairly in control. Even when I think Newcastle had a good spell in the first 10 minutes of the second half, I thought Liverpool controlled it quite well. And that's the first time in the league this season we have come from a losing position to get all 3 points.
That is correct.
It took us a long time. I think it's only the second game in all competitions we've done this. So, again.
Yeah, we've come back to draw once, I think. But no wins.
And there's the Frankfurt game where we were 1-0 down and won. But, I mean, there aren't many. So you've got to take the positives where they are. So look, are there still things wrong in the setup? Yeah, but look, let's focus on if they had won today, they'd have leapfrogged us. Chelsea getting a late winner added that extra little bit of pressure. So you've kept up with Chelsea. The gap's still 1 point. You've now put pressure on United for tomorrow, who've got Fulham are a bit of a mixed bag. On the day can be an absolute fucking nightmare. Or there's something to roll over. So which Fulham turns up, but it's not a gimme. So you just put a bit of pressure on. Worst case scenario, you're back to where you were, but the gap's a point. So, but look, some nice goals, and some players had really good performances. That's still areas of concern, but I think that at this stage of the season, you're not going to not have that. So, but listen, I'm enjoying the win. It was nice. I mean, that's the most comfortable I've felt in the second half in ages. Granted, we didn't put any messages out to jinx it, just in case, but
Yep.
In general, I wasn't like, biting my nails, edge of a seat, going, fucking hell, we're hanging on here. This is tight. I thought defensively, especially the whole second half, we looked really comfortable. The best save of Alisson had to do was offside anyway. So Alisson actually had fairly little to do in that second half, and Liverpool picked them off. So look, there are a lot more positives than negatives, I would say.
We usually start at the beginning. I think we should probably start there because there is a lot of kind of drama to talk through, Matt. The lineups came out. I don't think there was anything particularly surprising there. Sabazlai playing right back, kind of par for the course. Ibu comes back. You had Jones on the bench. But yeah, I don't think there was anything really surprising there. And that kind of first I want to say 40 minutes, really, even more than 30 minutes. That felt a little bit rocky to me, Matt. I don't know about you. It just felt a little bit like we were going through a storm. And part of that was Newcastle's game plan was just to kind of go really heavy-handed for that first 30 minutes. And ultimately it ended up biting them. But for that first 30 to 40 minutes, I felt like I don't know if we were the lesser team, but it felt like we were really riding something out there.
Well, we certainly were the lesser team in terms of energy being expended on the pitch. Just in terms of the lineups, I don't think there was really any surprises with our lineup. I think the surprises all came from their lineup. Bruno Guimaraes, travels with the team for their Champions League game midweek, and everybody's working kind of under the assumption that he's going to be miraculously fit to play against us, and then obviously have a Barnes.
It's mentally was in the squad midweek if he's not going to be fit enough for the weekend.
Yeah.
So it was a waste of a squad place, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. If you want to go and support them, that's fine. Go and support them. Why have them on the bench then? If you're not going to use against PSG and you're not going to use them in the squad today, it just seems a bit.
Yeah, it was a bit of a head scratcher. So I think it was you, Chris, that had the reports that he wasn't traveling with the team or wasn't at the stadium a couple hours before the game, and it was like, oh, okay, well that's kind of a relief.
It was one of the local patch journalists for them.
Yeah,
today. Actually, to be fair, I think it was Ashley put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Well, look at you sharing credit properly. So
Thanks, Chris.
I apologize. There's too many bloody messages, but the fact that they didn't go with Voltamata up front and they went with like an all-out pace attack up top on the pitch with Harvey Barnes-Alanga and absolute shithouse Anthony Gordon that he is, I think that shows very clearly that that's Eddie Howe's game plan, was to come out and try to take the game to us. This is a Liverpool team that are low on confidence. They can be got at. Let's just go after them, try to get, 1 or 2 goals up, and then just sit back in our, 4-5-1 or 5-4-1, whatever they were going to use to try to stymie us on the break. And we just needed to take their best punch effectively and not get knocked out. We got reeled a little bit because we ended up going down 1-0, but eventually it just kind of showed that they were missing that focal point up top. They were missing a number 9. They were missing an Alexander Isak type player or even a Voltamata type player. So I got to give credit a little bit to the players and the staff for setting us up, in response to how Newcastle came out and how they were going to play the game. After the first 5-10 minutes, it was pretty obvious that they were going to come after us and press us high. You see Anthony Gordon sliding in on Allison, leaving a little bit of a boot in on him late, taking a yellow card early. And that was the kind of game they're going for. If you're pressing the goalkeeper 3 yards off of the end line, you're obviously employing a high press. And we said it in our little chat that we all have together while the game's on I'm pretty sure it was Kev. It's just like, they won't be able to keep this up. You just need to survive that early storm. And we just about didn't survive that early storm because we have a bit of a lapse at the back just in terms of Milos Kerkez not quite staying tight to his man and letting them get the goal that puts them 1-0 up. And you start to worry whether we're going to see the same script over again where our fragile mentality just leads to us crumbling after giving away a silly goal.
I think we've learned from Bournemouth, where Bournemouth, it went 1 and it went 2 very quickly. And that's sort of been a bit of a pattern, is if we give 1 goal away, we give the second away quite quickly. We're a bit lax. So I think the Hugo equaliser was probably huge, because I think that just kind of got us back level, and then kind of took a bit of pressure off on, okay, we haven't played at our best, but we got ourselves level. And I think mentally that was a bit of a gut punch from Newcastle, because they're probably thinking, look, we've pressed them high, we've played well, the game plans work, we've got the goal. Probably not the way we expect to get the goal, but we've got the goal. And then Liverpool's probably first or second real proper attack, it's 1-1. And it's probably like clinical. It's like that clinical, fuck me, they've had 2 shots and they've scored 1. How's this worked?
Well,
look, we've been on the receiver end of that as well. City were very good at that. So I do think that was a big factor as well. That I think the quickness of the equaliser probably was the big gut punch for them.
Yeah, I mean the goal itself for them, was sort of a comedy of errors. There was a McAllister moment where he failed to clear. It was really kind of quite a fortuitous ricochet that went over to Gordon, really. And then Kerkez, I think, was not expecting that ball to go to him at that moment, and he does try to go down. and I think he gets nutmegged at the same time as that ball is going in. So it's quite unfortunate. It is very much Liverpool of 2025, 2026.
Credit to Gordon, though. It is also a good finish.
It's a very good finish.
It's right in the corner. There's no way Alisson's getting anywhere near it. So, we can give him credit where it's due. We can't give credit because he won as well. So.
No, absolutely. And I think I said to you, like, he always kind of comes to play Liverpool very, very similar to Sarr, where it almost feels like he has a vendetta against us. And I don't know if that's because he was scouted by us and didn't get the move, and the same thing with Sarr, but they both just play kind of with a bee in their bonnet. And they were very, very similar in the first game this year, up until that Gordon red card. And that was that aggression. And I think that Gordon stayed just on the right side of that red card, but barely. And before our equalizer, I just don't want to speed through too quickly. There was a penalty claim right around 38 minutes where Ekitike tries to shoot in the box after a really beautiful Salah cross. And I thought Trippier kicked his foot. It's one of those ones that I'm going to have to go back and look at. And obviously it's non-material for the game and the outcome, but that was waved away extremely quickly for me. But yeah, let's talk about that second goal, Matt, or that. Well, I guess it's the first goal for us, but the second goal in the game, where it was really a beautiful moment from Florian Wirtz. He has had a lot of instances where he has that really close control in the box and it hasn't come off. This was a time where it did come off, where he had the composure to go to the byline, cut back, and Ekitike was there, and it was such a composed finish from him. Talk us through that goal. Talk us through like how it felt to kind of get the equalizer almost against the run of play.
Yeah, you're always going to have your moments, and it's just a matter of trying to capitalize on them. So, I think at halftime, I think we had scored from our only 2 shots on goal. And that's the kind of conversion rate that you need when you're having issues with the team, when everything isn't just flowing for you perfectly and everything's coming up Millhouse all the time. You kind of need to be clinical with that. And that's the type of striker that I think we all hoped we were getting with Hugo Ekitike when we signed him in the summer. We all thought we were definitely going to get with Alexander Isak. Now, obviously, he's out. I think it's 6 weeks to the day since he picked up that injury. He was in the stands tonight. So, that's positive to see him back in and around the match day experience at least. But I said into another group that the reports of Florian Wirtz being a flop were very much premature, because you're starting to see he's picking up the feel of the league. It took him the better part of a half season to get there. But when you're thinking about a player that you spend over 100 million pounds on, sometimes you need to give them a little bit more of a leash. You're seeing it in Chelsea's case with Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo, both of them coming good on huge transfer fees. You're seeing it with Declan Rice, now completely justifying his massive transfer fee. And already, I think the amount of money and faith and trust and hope that the Liverpool hierarchy has put into Florian Wirtz, bringing him into this team, is starting to pay off. He's putting the numbers up, and you're just starting to see those little bits of brilliance that in the first half of the season, we were on here, I would say, desperately trying to justify of like, well, he can't do much more when he sets it on a plate for somebody that doesn't finish the chances. And now somebody's finishing those chances for him. And that player is Hugo Ekitike. I mean, he's up to 15 goals in all comps now for Liverpool, which for a first season for a striker is good. You're going to take that, I think.
It's great.
Yeah, you're going to take that 10 times out of 10. We would have been delighted. Actually, Darwin might have hit 15 in his first season. I was just about to throw him under the bus, but let me not do that. But it's your strikers getting on the end of those moves that your creative spark, the person who I believe the team is going to be built around going forward, which is Florian Wirtz, of trying to get the best out of him, is the way forward for this team. We needed somebody to get on the end of that. There's Hugo Ekitike getting on the end of that. And I mean, the second goal is all Hugo. Not all Hugo, but it's a lot more of him. This was one where he just needed to be in the right place at the right time and put the right finish on the ball. And that's what he did. And it's the definition of a gut punch if it isn't for the second one.
Yeah, so, that goal goes in at 40 minutes, which is quite rare for us, Chris, to actually score a goal in the first half of a game, let alone 2 goals in the first half of a game. So 3 minutes later, very reminiscent of sort of prime slot ball last year. We had this kind of 1-2 punch where we go a goal up, or we equalize in this case, but then we immediately kind of seize upon the moment. So at 43 minutes, there's a beautiful ball from Kirkes, and I think it's Ekitike against, it's Thea, right? Or how do you pronounce his name?
Thea, like a karate chop.
Okay, we're gonna go with that. So it's him up against Thea, and look, he shows the ball to Thea, and then there's this insane outside of the foot finish that goes across Pope into the far corner, and that's the kind of goal that I feel like there was a lot of comparisons with Torres, and Gerard compared him to Torres at halftime. Chris, does he remind you of Torres? Because that finish reminded me of Torres.
Oh yeah, that was Torres. That had a little look of the his first goal against Chelsea and his Anfield debut. That sort of slow down, take it around the player outside for. But listen, if Gerard said he's like Torres, I mean he'd know. You know, he played with him, so he'd know better than any of us. But yeah, there's definitely a Torres vibe about him. Which, let's be honest, look, I'd seen bits of Hugo Ekitike, more bits in Europa League. You know, looks an exciting prospect. Seems like a lot of money for him. But let's see what he can do. I think probably because we signed Isak, that took a lot of pressure off him because all the expectation is on Isak, and he's just floated. But he's a very Liverpool type striker. Does all the things that people loved about Darwin, works hard, got pace, but he's just a better footballer, and he's a much calmer finisher. The only thing I would say with Hugo is, I'm surprised he only got 2, because I think before he scored, he went to chip Pope. Pope reads it well, but I thought he was going to drill it low and hard like he normally does. And in the second half, I was waiting for the hat trick, because he's just so cold in front of goal. So, but I mean, that's a nice problem to have, isn't it? What's your problem with Hugo Ekitike? He's only scoring 2. Oh, no. Do you know what I mean? That's the only criticism you give him. And I love his shithousery.
Yeah, at the very end.
I love that he's a shithouse towards Newcastle fans. Brilliant.
At the very end, yeah, that was great.
And even when he scored his goal, he cupped his ears to him. And look, that's just football banter. Because I'll be honest, Gordon, to his credit, scored goal and give it to the Kop. That's what you should do. That's the joy of it, So
well, there was a great interview from Ekitike prior to this match, and he really goes into detail. He talks about how he very, very nearly went to Newcastle. He spoke about how they were in conversations, and then Liverpool came in, and he made the decision to go to Liverpool. He talked about. And again, I don't want to put down Newcastle or anything, but he talked about the size of the club and the desire to go here, and I think that he just kind of put that on the table and put his money where his mouth was in terms of actually acting on that today. And I'm so incredibly glad that we got him, because there's a world, really, Matt, where we maybe would have only gotten Isak and wouldn't have gotten Ekitike, and Ekitike could have gone over to Newcastle, and this result could have been all over the place. It really could have. I mean, there's a twilight world where that could have happened. How fortunate are we to have Hugo Ekitike in our team, Matt?
Yeah, it's especially now, given the fact that our marquee striker signing of the summer is out for presumably the rest of the entire season.
Matt, he's scoring the win. He's scoring the win in the European Cup final. That's the vibe we're going with.
I'll take it.
Let me live in that delusion.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. It means that Arne Slot will be here next season if we win the European Cup, so don't even worry about that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I couldn't have told you a thing about Hugo Ekitike before, maybe about a week before we signed him. When everything was starting to ramp up, when it looked like we might be coming into Gazump Newcastle for his signing, and then you go and you do your obligatory YouTube techno beat skills and tricks watch-alongs, and there's just I'm a sucker for just buying in wholeheartedly. I'm completely biased as a Liverpool fan. If we're going to sign a player, I'm going to love a player. I'm not going to, think a new signing is going to be terrible before I've ever seen him kick a ball for Liverpool. But there was something about the way that he played, his calmness. I like the way he played with his back to goal, his ability to have those little layoffs. You see that for the assist he laid on for Verts. Was that in the Champions League? Might have been in the Champions League. They're all kind of melding together at one point, but he's not afraid to run out of defense, and you see that in the second goal where you put a couple of yards of grass in front of him with some room to run onto. He's got enough pace. He's not as fast as Darwin, but Darwin was blisteringly fast. He's quick. He's good with both feet. He can play those short little link-up balls in the middle. He seems like he might be tailor-made for playing with a dynamic, extremely talented number 10, and if only we had one of those or the number 7. So I think it's going to look like an incredibly astute piece of business for Liverpool by the end of this season. If he's up to 15, 16 league goals and maybe can score a big important goal in the European Cup or something along those lines, that's the sort of stuff that is always going to endear a new signing to a fan base, but especially to Liverpool fans. So it's exciting to see that with one of our two recognized strikers being out, the entire burden is falling on him, and he is not shrinking from it. He's absolutely growing into it. That since Alexander Isak has gone out, he's taken his game up another level, and we desperately needed it, because where would we be right now if it wasn't for Hugo Ekitike's goals?
And also, as Thor points out, at least he kept his shirt on this time as well, which is also I think he's learned
from that moment. Darwin had a moment like that too. He got a red card early on. He did not necessarily learn from that moment. So let's take some progress from our strikers. I think it's, let's see, was it Thor that threw in here? No, it's Dave. He mentions that, he goes on 10 league goals now. So we're basically a little more than halfway through at 10 league goals. I think that if he gets to 20 goals, that's an astounding result for a first season. And I don't do a lot of, I'm not going to do a lot of post-match quotes right now, because we're going to do that in our post-match show. But, one of the things that came out in the post-match quotes was Hugo, and he came to talk to Gerrard, and he specifically said, I don't have a target for the number of goals that I'm going for. I just want to be the top scorer at the club. And that, Chris, is the attitude that I want to hear from our basically primary striker at this point in time.
Yeah, exactly. Target should always be score as many as you can. I don't actually believe strikers when they say, I don't have a target. I'm sure they do. I'm sure he's got a ballpark figure in his head. I'd like to get this number. I guarantee you Mo Salah has that, and I guarantee Isak has that. But listen, he just wants to contribute, and he's saying all the right things, and he's back. To be fair to him, he's backing up everything he does. So, look, I couldn't be happier. 15 league goals. Sorry, 15 goals in all comps at the end of January. Not much more you could ask for from your striker.
Especially someone that's been out for a little while.
Yeah, he's been absolutely. The only thing is we've just got to wrap him in cotton wool, because we do have a person who's in charge of transfers who goes, everything's sound. Everything's sound. We don't need anyone else. We're everything's sound, which is also slightly frustrating. Just a little bit of help would be nice. But listen, Hugo, excellent. Verts, excellent. I like the fact the first two goals all came from new signings, because the ball from Kirkes to Hugo for the second goal was an excellent ball. Kirkes again, I thought he was really good today. I thought he had a really good game. And listen, he had a tough ask, because Elanga went man for man with him, and Elanga's no slouch. But I think they pointed out in my comms, Elanga's best work was as a defender. And that's credit to Kirkes, because you did what you want your attacking fullback to do, is make their winger track back, and he has to track back all the time, but he was a non-event in the attacking area. So again, credit where credit's due to Kirk. I thought he also had a very good game.
I think both of the left backs had a very good game, actually. I think that Hall looks like a real talent. I think that he's in for a real shout of that spot in the England squad. I don't know, just because of his experience and his age, if he'd get it, but I think he's in with a shot. Look, guys, I'm going to move quickly on into the second half. There's a couple things that kind of happen in between the two goals there. There's one moment where I'm going to give credit to Ali for the save from Harvey Barnes because he didn't know it was offside. And I actually thought it was quite close when I saw the offside. So that was around 58 minutes. It was right after the McAllister yellow card on Ramsey. And, you know, I honestly think that Hooper could have played advantage. And I don't think that Hooper had a very good game overall, which is not surprising for him. But there was basically a second phase where so Davey says Chow. So that's what I'm going to go with. Chow gets a really good header, and Harvey Barnes gets sort of a long range effort on target. May or may not have been offside, but that was a really good save from Alley down low. And that was really kind of all he had to do in that second half. But going on to 66 minutes, Matt, I'm going to move on to our third goal. So that's when Mo Salah gets the ball. So it all comes from Gakpo, actually. The ball goes from Gakpo to Wirtz, back to Mo, and then Mo, really almost in slow motion when I was watching it, passes the ball back to Wirtz, who strokes it home. There's so much finesse in this finish, Matt. It goes to the bottom corner. It kisses the post, which is just so aesthetically pleasing. And that's his 6th goal in 10 games. So we talked about Wirtz taking a little bit of time to get up to speed, but he's 4 kilograms heavier and he's finally back. I think that this is what we signed.
Yeah, that's 8.8 pounds for you, Ashley. I know that
Thank you so much.
American, you people are completely against the metric system, so I'll do the quick conversions math for you there. Yeah, it's a very lovely finish from him. There's one replay from kind of behind him where you just see how close his feet are together. It's the sort of finish attempt that can go horribly wrong, where you kick your own foot or trip over the ball or something like that. But he seemed to know exactly what he needed to do. But he's being that extra man in the box. He's being that attacking midfielder. That's what you want your number 10 to be doing. You want him being that late runner into the box, finding that open space and being on the end of it. So it's great that Mo Salah gets, I believe I heard the stat was he's the first player in Premier League history to have both 10 plus goals and 10 plus assists against one opponent.
Yes.
Great. It's great for him because other than that, Mo Salah was pretty freaking dreadful today. So,
yeah, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, it's nice that he was able to get that goal involvement and do something to help the team out. But again, it's just another sign of players that needed just a little bit of time, and Hugo and Flo getting that little bit of time and finding their space in the game. And that third goal was extremely important because, again, I don't think the mentality of this team is back solid again. I still think there's a lot of mental fragility to us. And if that game goes 2-2, like, was the score 2-1 when Allison makes that save?
Yes.
Yeah. That save is
nervy.
Massive for us because that game goes 2-2 and there's a 50-50 chance that we shit our pants and throw that away. And
it's probably higher than 50%, to be completely honest.
I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice. So it's good to see like both the wide players being involved in the build up to that goal, both Gakpo and Salah, who were pretty easily the 2 worst Liverpool players on the day on the pitch. I don't think that's an outrageous claim to make. But
the times they were effective is when they were allowed to be a bit more central, not out wide. Because we all know Mo Salah slowed down. So playing him as an out-and-out winger like
he got outstripped by Trippier.
That's what I mean.
That's not slowing down, Chris. That's snail.
Yeah, we say that. But then 2 minutes later, after he got outstripped by Trippier, he got the ball and he ran past Lewis Hall, who's quicker than Trippier. So there is the element of he can do it, but it's more to do with close control and more central. Playing him as out wide now doesn't work for him. And we saw second half of Gakpo. He was more involved and they allowed him to drop a little bit deeper, pick it deep and run from deep. So the issue is that it makes us very narrow. But I think if we didn't have certain players missing, that's the reason I think you bought a Kirkez and a Frimpong and a Bradley when they're fit, is to be your width and be your pace. But we've only got one. We've only got the one at the moment. But it still works.
The thing I liked about Gakpo today was, especially in the first half, we saw a lot of him coming central and allowing Ekitike to move out left because he does like operating from that left channel. And, that's where the second goal comes from, is him working down that left-hand channel. And if you have just an out-and-out winger playing there, like if that's on the other side of the pitch, if he likes drifting out to the right, Mo Salah doesn't really want to be moving and occupying a center forward position. He's not the type of player to do that, and that's why we haven't transitioned to a 4-4-2 or something. A 4-1-2-1-2 diamond sort of shape with Mo Salah up top partnering him.
But in Europe, we did, especially away in Marseille, we did play him more central, and he was more involved. Granted, still wasn't as effective as we would like, but he was definitely more involved. Him and Hugo being quite close together, we're having a Wirtz behind him, and it was a Szoboszlai. So I think that is a way that can work. Maybe it's only a European thing. Maybe it's only for away from home. You've got to play to the strengths the players have. So don't play him in a position where you're relying on him to outpace and rinse players, because he hasn't done that all season. So he's not going to start doing it now. So play to his strengths, or don't pick him and pick somebody else there and use him as an impact sub. Which
we saw what happened when Slot didn't pick Mo Salah last time. I don't want a replay of that.
But then
correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Slot actually came out and said last year, when asked why don't you play Mo Salah at a 9, he said basically that I expect a lot more from my 9. I expect my 9 to track back more. I don't know why that just came out like that. I see what you're saying, Chris, but I'm not 100% sold on that idea going in the future. I think that
I just think sticking about wide.
Tinkering.
I think we just keep sticking about wide. We'll be coming on every show going, God, Mo Salah wasn't effective. Well, he's not really involved. Well, we've seen now for a good 6 months that isn't working. So they've got to, if they want him involved to the end of the season, which he is going to be, maybe there's a way of that. Or maybe we just have to accept the way to get his team working is Mo does this job out wide, which means he isn't the Mo Salah we all know and love. But what it is doing is it's allowing Wirtz and Hugo to excel. So ultimately, if it gets the teams the wins, then so be it. You just have to accept that maybe the wingers have got a bit of a donkey's job to do, and it's not going to be exciting and like they usually are. Because we're so used to, we've had 10, 12 years of Liverpool just being pure pace in the wings, and all the goals come from the wings because that's how we played. So maybe this is just a bit of an evolution.
Well, there's an argument to be made that Mo Salah has basically set the standards, and if he's falling short of his own standards, then credit to him for what he's done for this club and in the history of this club. I mean, again, I feel like today I want to focus on the positives because we've been focusing on negatives so much recently. And, we have a 4-1 victory here. I don't necessarily want to harp on how bad Mo Salah was.
No, but even in his, as we've seen again, even in his pretty average games, he still gets a contribution of some description, which even Mo Salah at his peak was quite good at doing that. So, I mean, I'll take that. Me and Matt are both of the similar mindset probably of, look, if you say, oh, he was shit today, Mo. Yeah, he got an assist though, didn't he? Oh, yeah. He was shit today, Mo. Yeah, he did get a goal though. Yeah, okay. We can live with that because, if he keeps, creating something.
I don't know, Chris. I think I might be not quite agreeing with you on that, because I don't think that's this team anymore. I think that was Jurgen Klopp's team. I think that was a team that was designed to get the best out of our right-hand side in Mo Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold. And we're not that now, and we're definitely not going to be that next year. And it's impossible that we'll be that in 2 years' time, because Mo Salah, I can't imagine a world.
I can't see getting extended. Yeah, I'm with you.
So, it was fine when the team was completely designed to get the absolute maximum impact and contribution out of Mohamed Salah, that he wasn't involved in games, and then he pops up and he scores a goal. That was fine for what it was. We're not that anymore. And there's too many times where we're carrying too many passengers. I said it in our chat, we can't have both of our wingers being passengers. We can't be doing that, because that's putting way too much tax on Hugo Ekitike to come back and do donkey's work.
Yeah, the one thing I would give Gakpo credit for, I thought actually defensively he did a lot of good donkey work. It's not really what he's paid for, as in we wanted to be a bit more effective in the front end of the pitch, which I think we saw a bit more second half. But the one thing he does give you, he will give you work rate, tracking back, which is probably where that kind of gets off it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, look.
Yeah, he's definitely not breaking. He was never breaking Ian Rush's record, but he's definitely not getting close to it.
Yeah, Ocean basically says, Ian Rush can rest easy now. Mo wouldn't be breaking his record. I think we should probably park the Mo conversation for now. We can get back to it in the post match show where we do the rants and the things like that. Because I want to get onto some more kind of positivity. Before we get to that positivity, though, we have to talk about the substitutions. So around 72 minutes, Matt, I'm going to go to you. There's a few substitutions from Newcastle. So Barnes comes off, Willock comes off, Alanga comes off, Murphy, Voltamata, and Visa all come on. And they go 4-2-4, basically just going for it with Voltamata in the 10. Did you see any sort of improvement from Newcastle there? Do you think that they possessed any sort of threat? Or do you think that they really just had burned themselves out by that point?
I think they had burned. I mean, definitely the front three had burned themselves out. Like, they did a lot of headless chicken running around, trying to chase after ghosts effectively for large parts of the first half. Voltamata has really gone off the boil. Like, he was absolutely firing there for a while back in the fall, and it just seemed like he was scoring every single match. But he's clearly missing a tick, and he seems to me like the type of striker that Newcastle needs to be playing to his strength. So bringing Jacob Murphy on with him, you saw from the amount of assists that Jacob Murphy was able to rack up last year playing towards Alexander Isak, that he can provide a good ball into a target man. And when Voltamata was making bank, that's what they were doing. They were getting balls into the box. They were using his physical presence in there to do it. Yoane Wissa, not working out so great. I mean, out of the two big Brentford departures this summer, I think it's pretty safe to say that Brian Mbeumo is having a far better time of it than Yoane Wissa is. But I think the bigger contributing factor to how those changes for them didn't alter the state of the game was that we had found a bit of confidence, that we had seen especially our center halves, and especially the man we're going to come on to end the show off with in Ibu Konate, the amount of times he was popping up 15 yards ahead of Virgil van Dijk to put a foot in.
His positioning was fantastic.
It was excellent, and it was that aggressive defending inside of the opposition half that the Liverpool teams of the last 8-10 years that have been at their best, we have loved to see, where you're winning the ball back 10 yards inside of their half, and whatever desperate attempts the other team is trying to make to get the ball out and away from their goal so that they can try to affect something down the other end, our center halves are just going, nope, I'm stepping up. You're getting nothing to do with that. I thought Ryan Gravenberch was excellent again today. It's been a while since we've seen a good game from Ryan Gravenberch. We saw a couple of those silky turns that he makes when he's in the middle of the park, but his positioning, along with the two center halves, I thought was absolutely excellent in the second half of the game, where Virgil looked calm and assured, and Ibu Konate looked like he just had an absolute injection of 100% pure confidence put into him before this game. Like, he looked nothing like the player that we were all rightly deriding in, earlier parts of this season, where it just seemed like his head was completely gone. He had a terrible, awful, no good week. He's gone through a family tragedy. He's having to deal with that grief. And it seems like it brought him back laser focused on what he needs to do. And I just thought, there's nothing. Like, it was always 10 times to me more likely that we were getting a fourth than they were getting a second.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that this was the best game that I've seen from Ibu Konate all year. I think positionally he was fantastic. He was basically winning every sort of aerial duel that you could have wanted from him, which is, it's a big thing that we've kind of called out this year is how frail we look in our aerial duels. He did go through a personal tragedy. It seems like him coming back into the lineup was completely a personal choice, that Slot basically gave him the freedom to come back whenever he felt ready to. But the way that he came back and the way that he was focused today is just, he gets an absolute round of applause from me. There were several moments kind of in this tail end of the game. I have one written down at 78 minutes for Lewis Hall cross, where Ibu is there. I just write down good positional sense, calm and composed, which are not words that I have associated with Ibu Konate at all this season. And then, I'm just kind of going through my notes here. Around 83 minutes is where we go into our substitution. So that's where Ekitike, Mo Salah, both of them come off. You see Chiesa and Jones come on. Not too long later, you have Wirtz go off and Endo come on, which was kind of nice to see. It's been a while since we've had the Endo Gum Shield kind of finish to the game. So it was nice to have him come on. And I'm going to kind of throw out one incident to you, Chris, at 87 minutes. So at 85 minutes, Lewis Hall had a moment where he was potentially given it as a handball. Dan Byrne, who was the captain of the team, goes over, tries to talk to Hooper, and Hooper immediately yellow cards him. I don't necessarily know if that was the correct yellow card, first of all, because the captain should be allowed to go up to Hooper. Again, Hooper is not a very...
Depends what he said, though.
It depends on what he said. But that's not the point here. The point is that, at 87 minutes, which is 2 minutes later, Gakpo has the ball over by the corner flag, and Dan Byrne quite clearly goes kind of through the back of Gakpo. Chris, at first I thought this had to be a yellow card. I did see second angles of this, and I felt like it was probably more of just a foul and less of a second yellow. I don't think Hooper would have sent him anyways, but before we get to the Ibu Konate goal, I just want to talk about this one incident here. Do you think that was a second yellow worthy challenge from Dan Byrne?
No. I think it's one of those, he knows what he's doing. As in, he knows I'm gonna leave one on him here a little bit. He keeps it low. It's just a foul. I think if he hasn't been booked, he might get a yellow for it, but okay. I don't think they're ever going to give a second yellow for that because it's near the end of the game. I just think the reason he got his yellow, and I know he's trying to point to his armband and the captain, but the aggressive way he basically ran at the ref. I was going to run through him.
Well, Kev points that out. He was actually booked for running up aggressively, which is kind of a new one.
Yeah, but you can go to the captain going, come on, that's this. Van Dijk does that. That's fine. But there's a way of doing it. You can't just run up like you're about to steamroller him over and then just say that.
He is quite a tall guy. I would be a little bit intimidated if he came up to me aggressively.
Yeah, but he just ran at him, shouting and effing and jeffing, and just said, he wasn't happy with the foul. I mean, to be fair, I thought Jones, when he came on, did exactly what Curtis Jones does, what we need him to do in those sort of games. Keeps the ball, wins fouls, plays the ball perfectly. Looks very relaxed for a guy who apparently wants to leave. Looked pretty chilled and happy, to be honest. And listen, he drew the foul. He drew the foul perfectly, and that's what Jones does. He's probably been a bit underutilized recently, but
I agree with that.
But this is why I don't think Liverpool. I think Liverpool will be mental to sell him before the end of the season. A, because we haven't got enough notice, but B, he's a perfect guy to bring on. Or if you pick up a Nigel or Gravenberch and McAllister and stuff like that, aren't going to play every single game. At some point, they are going to need to be rested, rotated. Jones is your perfect drop-in centre mid, wherever you want to put him, or even at right back. He does all the job.
I think Curtis Jones, his skill set, dovetails quite nicely with Florian Wirtz.
Yeah, it does.
I think that's part of Wirtz's kind of renaissance here. I think that he really started that. He sort of platformed Wirtz at the very beginning. It's not happening now anymore, but I think that Jones and Wirtz, that was sort of the beginning of Wirtz's confidence.
Yeah, just having that player that likes playing those short, intricate little, a little bit more like, Curtis Jones is as close to a tick-attack-it football player as we really kind of have on our team. He holds the ball too long sometimes, but he's also very confident in what he does. And I'm okay with it. I'd like to see him get some more game time, but apparently him and Arne Slot are going to have a death match or something like that. And
I would pay to watch that, actually.
UFC it, they're going to do.
Yeah. Loser leaves Liverpool sort of thing.
You know what? If they fundraises for that, it could probably make up for if we missed out of the Champions League. I'm pretty sure. If it was like a pay-per-view kind of thing. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Don't give that for shit ideas. They'll probably try it.
I mean, I might just call John Henry and just let him know. Look, guys, I want to finish and I want to talk about this goal kind of as much as we possibly can, because sometimes, Chris, football throws up moments that feel almost like they're written in the stars. They're very poetic. And there was a moment here that happened at 93 minutes where there was a final Liverpool corner and Pope drops the ball and it falls to Ibu Konate, and it becomes Ibu's first goal scored with his feet, but it becomes so much more than that, Chris. It becomes so much more than just a goal. And you can see the minute that ball goes into the back of the net that the tears are just welling at the back of his eyes. And the reception from his teammates at that moment was one of those things that I think will just kind of be tattooed in my mind for this season. So whether the season goes positively or negatively, this is a moment where I will remember. Very similar to the goal that Allison scored shortly after the death of his father. And I think actually watching Allison run up and hug Ibu Konate for that goal just brought me back to that moment. So sometimes football is bigger and represents something greater. How did you feel when Ibu Konate scored that goal, Chris?
Yeah, Kev sums up perfectly. I think he put "Thank you, football gods." It just felt like poetic. I mean, I love the fact that McAllister was a bit like just like shuffling, protecting the ball. I'll make sure this rolls in. I'll make sure this rolls in. No one else is getting a touch in this. It was nice, yeah. Look, you saw the emotions come out. You know, having been someone who's lost a parent, you know, it's probably one of the most difficult things you'll ever go through. And yeah, you could see all the emotion coming out of him, and I could sort of relate to the emotion that would come out because it's one of the hardest things I think you'll ever have to deal with as a person. So look, it just summed up probably a perfect night for him, as in he was excellent on the pitch, and then the first game he plays since he's lost his father, manages to get a goal at Kop End, to celebrate that with his teammates. And look, you can see how all his teammates gather around him, the bones of the man, and it's poor fellas that like quite a few of players. It's another shit moment on top of a pretty shit 12 months. So yeah, that was probably moment of the night. I was really, really happy with that. That proper made my night. That did.
Yeah. Kev pointed out that he was unlucky a few moments before. Actually,
it was a great
kind of got on the end of a really, really good chance, and it felt like that was the moment. And you were like, "Oh no, he missed it!" And you felt like, Matt, that like that the football gods had missed their opportunity, but no, they didn't. I'll ask you the same question. Just what was your response to this goal, and seeing the response mostly from the players more than anything else?
I mean, I think like you guys have both kind of alluded to Allison, going through the same sort of thing and then scoring that, incredible goal that is such a signpost in recent Liverpool history of just like one of the great moments that we've had. But I think this is different because this season is different because of the Diogo Jota stuff. Because this whole team had to experience loss and grief. And then Ibu has to experience more loss and grief and go away. And like, I don't doubt for a single second that when Arne Slot says, or any of the other players say, Ibu was told you can have as much time as you need. 100%. There's no way anybody at Liverpool Football Club was being like, oh, and by the way, we're going to need you back for, Saturday. There's no way that happened. So clearly he felt that he was ready to come back in and contribute to the team, but there's no way that he wasn't still carrying that double set of baggage that this whole season, this entire organization, including us as fans, have been carrying the loss of Diogo Jota with us. And then Ibu Konate has to go and have his father die on him, and that compounds it. So to me, it has to be like a cathartic moment for this team, and I hope it's a galvanizing moment for this team where everybody can rally around and just say like, look at what can happen. Like, look at how the emotions can be positive from it. Of that, you're not going to get past that sadness, but we can work through it and we can augment that sadness with these incredible bursts of joy and happiness from playing football. And yeah, it was just like I don't even think the ball had trickled over the line yet. And Virgil van Dijk's arms were about as wide as the entire pitch. And he had this look of just love, I think is the word for it, on his face. Like, he couldn't have been happier for Ibu Konate. It's just great. And it feels like we kind of needed it.
God, did we need
I
it.
think like from top to bottom, the players, the management, the fans in the stadium, the fans watching at home on TV, people doing shows like this on YouTube afterwards, is we all kind of needed that. It's a really feel good story in a year that's been kind of the fucking opposite of feel good. And yeah, it was just lovely. And I mean, it's going to give us a great picture of Nick Pope stretching desperately and uselessly behind him to try to stop the ball from rolling ever so slowly across the goal line. Like, it's almost better that this was the goal he scored and not that one that he caught so sweetly on the volley that deflected out for another corner. I mean, that would have been aesthetically a better goal, but there's just something about this that I think works. And yeah, I just hope that the whole team has a moment in the dressing room afterwards where they can use this as a rallying point and we can move forward from here, because we might be out of the title race, but our season isn't over.
I think that's a great rallying call. We've missed your rallying calls, Matt. We've missed your positivity. But yeah, Chris, I'm gonna ask you the same question here about your response to Ibu Konate's goal. Before I do, I want to highlight, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a wonderful kind of full extended highlight package of, it's not even a highlight package. It's a full video of Alisson Becker kind of talking through the goal that he scored after he lost his father. And he talks about almost, like, for lack of a better term, almost the sky opening up and feeling almost this moment of connection with his lost father at that moment in time. And I'm not going to put words into Ibu's mouth by any means in saying that that's maybe what he felt here, but the response from the teammates echoed what I saw on that day with Alisson Becker, where, the way that they embraced Ibu after he scored that goal, the way that they celebrated for him, even the way that, Hugo Ekitike, who wasn't even on the pitch, celebrated with him after the final whistle blew. Kev made the point that it felt like the Kop really sucked that goal in. And I completely agree. Sometimes there are moments where it does feel like the Kop sucks a goal in, and it's like I said, it's like fate decides that that's the moment that it's going to happen. How did you feel when that goal went in, and did it feel like some sort of signpost for this team kind of moving forward?
Yeah, it felt like a big, sort of a big emotional moment for him. But look, sadly for Ibu, it's all about the firsts. Speaking from personal experience, it's getting the first out of the way. Your first training session, your first match, everything's the first without that person in your life. And it's hard. And look, it doesn't matter whether it was 3 weeks ago or it can be 13 years ago. Certain things still trigger, and it's how you sort of connect with things. So for him, it'll be probably a lovely memory that, to be honest, my guess would be it probably won't sink in until probably months later when he'll look back and go, oh yeah, that's quite cool. And that's how you sort of, that's how I sort of see things. Look, I think in years to come, there'll be other little moments that he'll go, you'll probably think, oh, my dad would have liked this, or this would have been great with my dad, and they're the sort of things it sort of brings up for you. But yeah, it just felt quite poetic and like a nice way to end a good day for Liverpool. On the pitch, they got a win, they came from behind, some things that we haven't seen before, played pretty well. And then you just get that nice moment for a player who's been through a pretty shit moment, is that nice little collective, everyone's with you. So that's kind of how I feel. I don't know if probably haven't articulated that very well, but that's kind of how I can sort of put it in my own head.
Yeah. Stephen Lennon throws in the chat, these are young men losing their loved ones. And I do want to make sure that we are being sensitive to that. So we're not trying to glorify a moment where someone loses their loved one. All I was simply trying to do was create sort of a parallel between those two moments, between Alisson and Ibu. But at the same time, I don't want to understate the situation that Ibu is going through. So let's maybe just park that for now and just talk about sort of the result as a whole and what it might mean for this team, what it might mean for Arne Slot going forward. Matt, again, just sort of final thoughts here before we close out our show on YouTube, because we will be moving over onto Patreon in a few moments for our post-match show.
My final thoughts are, we're never going to lose again, because we're back, baby. No, it was it was just good to have. I mean, being only my second post-match show after a while off, and after the last one, just saying that it just wasn't fun to watch Liverpool play. I enjoyed watching Liverpool play today. I had fun watching that match. I think neutrals had fun watching that match. First half, second half, whatever it was, you had some good goals, you had good football being played, and it looked like we wanted to win. It looked like we went out there, and after we survived that first half an hour, we went, we're better than these, and we're going to impose ourselves on it. And there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness, and I think we rode that very well today. And I just really hope that this is a kicking on point, because kind of got a pretty big game coming up next.
Yeah. Chris, there was a moment about maybe halfway through the second half, or no, it wasn't through the second half, it was through the first half, sorry, where you said, why can't we be more defensive? And it just kind of got me thinking. In weeks gone past, in our post-match content.
Oh, we were so open, weren't we? That's what was open on the counter.
We were very open. You heard Virgil van Dijk say, we're too open. He actually mouthed, "We're too open" to Arne Slot, so that happened. But it was really interesting to me that you sent that, and then I kind of thought back to maybe 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. We were like, well, we want to go forward. We're too defensive. Did Arne Slot end up finding the balance today? Did he end up finding the balance at the end of this game for the second 40? Like, let's talk about the second half. Did he end up finding that balance? And is this something that Arne Slot can take forward?
Possibly. We were more balanced second half, but not to discredit the performance, but it's a bit easy to be more balanced when you've already got the lead. Trying to be that balanced at 0-0, I think that's still a bit of a learning experience. And listen, I just don't think we're going to get, as much as I get frustrated sometimes, you're not going to get a perfect or close to perfect performance this season. I just don't think we have the capability of doing it this year. I think we are going to have to be a moments team and take your moments. Look, Hugo had 2 moments first half, took them, and that gave you the platform to build from. I think it's going to be the same against City. My gut feeling is the performance against City will be quite different to the one today. I think it'd be more akin to how we played Arsenal away. And I'm fine with that because of who you're playing.
I hope that's the case, because I think they'll probably punish us more than Newcastle.
I think who we're playing, this is a game where you probably would start Jones and only play one of Hugo and another.
Gakpo we'll get to that in our pre-match.
That's what I mean.
For that.
I think the key today is maybe there's some signs there for a bit of balance, but the key is just building it. It's our first win since December in the league, so just building it. Keep yourself in the conversation for top 5, because it almost looks like now top 5, 5th is pretty much guaranteed for a Champions League.
It is, in terms of coefficients, it's pretty much as solid as you can get.
Val, there's still 2 spots open because the top 3 are too far away. I don't think anyone's catching them. So
we're currently in 5th right now. We're 1 point behind Chelsea. We are 7 points behind City and Villa. So there's a pretty side. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I think it's something that could be earned back. I mean, certainly with Chelsea, but that's where we are. But look, on that note, I think probably just drawing this to a close here on YouTube. For those of you that don't know, we do have a Patreon channel. I'm sure that everyone probably knows that's watching, but if you don't, we have a Patreon channel. And that's where we're going right now. So in about 5 minutes, we're going to go over there. Matt's going to drop out. Kev's going to come in, and we're going to hear kind of Kev's side of the story as well. We'll go into a little bit more depth about who our man of the match is, who our honorable mention is. We will talk about, things that, and the QR code is there. Thank you, Chris, for throwing that up there. If you want to click on that. So we'll talk more about, the future of Slot, maybe. God, I don't even know if we can really muster anything about transfers, but we'll probably touch on Jones and what happened there, and sort of a preview for the week, just to kind of dangle a carrot out there for you. We have Phil coming back this week, which is, we haven't heard from Phil in quite a long time. So there's going to be a great show with Phil on our Patreon. There's also going to be some additional shows that are coming up over there. We have our Good Process show. We have sort of our post-match review. bunch of things going on. It's about the price of a coffee. There's a free trial as well if you want to try it out. That's there. Tomorrow we are going to have our Sunday night show as well, where the guys are actually going to have something positive to talk about on a Sunday night, which will be a nice change. But I think that's all the housekeeping. Did I miss anything? I don't think I missed anything. Okay, Chris, any sort of final thoughts before we move over onto Patreon? So just kind of closing out here.
Just nice to get a win. Nice to get a win and a pretty decent performance. And some, to be honest, all 5 goals were nice goals in different ways. I mean, there was also a comical effect with the 4th one as well. But no, in general, there were good goals. And listen, I thought Newcastle played quite well. That's why I don't think we should disparage Newcastle. Say, oh, they were shy, and that's why Liverpool won. Newcastle played pretty well, especially first half. That's a hard-fought win, and then we managed to go up a level.
Yeah, I agree. Matt, any final thoughts before we move over onto Patreon?
No, I'm just going to point out that anybody that hasn't been made aware of it, Gav Doyle, who you will know from this channel, and I have started a new venture called I Know Sports, He's a Clown. It's available on YouTube. We had our first show on Thursday, so neither of us are real social media users, so we're not sure how exactly we're going to get the word out about this new show, but that's not really why we're doing it. It's mostly just so Gav and I can have fun talks about sports, and I can try to convince him to be fans of things other than sports that exist within a 5-mile radius of his own home. So,
a teeny tiny island.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I think some people might like it. So yeah, if you want to check that out, I Know Sports, He's a Clown on YouTube. Just come on over, check out the first episode, give us a follow, and all those standard YouTube-y things that you're supposed to say. But yeah.
If you ever want to hear about Gav's experience ice skating, then I encourage you to go check that out, because you will get a very kind of, I don't know, graphic recount of his experience ice skating, which was really quite funny.
Yes.
But on that note, we're going to head over to our Patreon. So give us 5 minutes. We're going to reset. Matt's going to drop out. Kev's going to drop in. And we will be back. So thank you all so much here on YouTube. As always, this is the bread and butter of our channel. We always want to have free shows. So thank you so much. And thank you in the chat for everyone that came. If you feel like following over, please do. We will appreciate you very much over there as well. I think that's it for everyone. Chris, you're in control. So can you take us out of here?
Try my best.
Thank you very much. Up the Reds.